Pemmican is one of the most remarkable survival foods ever created. Made from dried meat, rendered animal fat, and sometimes dried berries, it was originally developed by the indigenous peoples of the North American plains, particularly the Cree and Métis. Even its name has an interesting history, coming from the Cree language and a word that roughly means "he makes grease," a fitting description for a food built around preserved fat. At its core, pemmican was designed to solve one problem: how to pack as many calories and nutrients as possible into something that could survive long journeys without spoiling. When prepared correctly, it can stay edible for years, and in some cases even decades, without refrigeration, making it one of history's most reliable travel foods. The preparation process was surprisingly simple, but highly effective. Hunters started with lean cuts of meat, most commonly bison, elk, or deer, slicing them into thin strips before drying them over a fire or under the sun until they became completely brittle. Once dried, the meat was crushed into a coarse powder and mixed with an equal amount of warm rendered tallow, allowing the fat to bind everything together into a dense, shelf-stable food packed with energy. Sometimes dried berries, especially Saskatoon berries or Virginia bird cherries, were mixed into pemmican as well. They certainly improved the flavor, but they also served a practical purpose by adding extra calories and helping preserve the mixture for even longer. Once everything was combined, the finished pemmican was pressed into dense cakes or packed tightly into rawhide bags that could be carried on horseback or by canoe during long expeditions. The texture was unlike almost anything people eat today. It sat somewhere between an extremely dense protein bar and a solid block of waxy meat, holding together firmly without melting or crumbling. To modern noses, it could have a very strong smell, especially after months in storage. Its flavor depended heavily on the animal it came from and whether berries had been included. Plain versions were intensely savory, rich with rendered fat, slightly metallic from the dried meat, and packed with enough calories to fuel travelers for hours. European fur traders quickly realized just how valuable pemmican was. During the 18th and 19th centuries, it became one of the backbone foods of the North American fur trade. Massive quantities were transported across Canada by companies such as the Hudson's Bay Company to feed workers traveling enormous canoe routes through the wilderness. Explorers heading into the Arctic, including Robert Peary, relied on it during dangerous polar expeditions, often crediting it as one of the few foods capable of surviving such extreme conditions. Even centuries later, the concept behind pemmican influenced certain military rations during World War II because of its incredible shelf life, portability, and energy density. Next comes hardtack, a food famous not because people loved eating it, but because it simply refused to spoil. Made from nothing more than flour, water, and salt, hardtack was baked until nearly every drop of moisture had been removed. The result was an incredibly hard biscuit that could survive years in storage while remaining technically edible, even if chewing it was another matter entirely. Although the term hardtack only became common in the 19th century, the idea itself is ancient. Civilizations have been making versions of ultra-dry bread for thousands of years. Ancient Roman soldiers carried a grain-based ration known as buccellatum, while Norse sailors packed dried bread before setting off on long sea voyages. Across history, armies and navies repeatedly returned to the same concept because it solved one major problem: preserving carbohydrates without refrigeration. Its greatest strength was durability rather than taste. If stored somewhere dry, hardtack could remain usable for years with very little change. During the American Civil War, both Union and Confederate soldiers became intimately familiar with it, often joking that the biscuits were harder than the enemy they were fighting. Many soldiers softened them by soaking them in coffee or water before frying them in bacon grease, creating a meal nicknamed Skilly Glee. Storage conditions were not always ideal, however. Biscuits often sat untouched for months or years, allowing insects to crawl inside. Veterans developed the habit of tapping them against a table or rock to knock out bugs before eating, while others simply ignored the extra protein and continued chewing. Dry hardtack had almost no flavor beyond a faint salty taste and was famously difficult to bite into. Once soaked, it transformed into a thick, doughy paste that was easier to eat but hardly delicious. Despite its shortcomings, it remained one of history's most dependable long-term food supplies. Cattails represent a completely different kind of survival food because they are living plants found naturally across wetlands on nearly every continent. Instantly recognizable by their tall green stalks and distinctive brown cylindrical seed heads, cattails have provided food and useful materials for thousands of years across North America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. One of the most remarkable things about cattails is that different parts of the plant become edible throughout the seasons. In early spring, the young shoots can be peeled and eaten raw, offering a crisp taste often compared to cucumber or celery. As the plant matures, the immature flower spikes can be boiled and eaten much like corn on the cob. Later in the season, bright yellow pollen can be harvested and mixed into flour for baking, while winter brings another resource entirely: the underground rhizomes, which can be dried and ground into a starchy flour. Many Native American groups, including tribes such as the Chippewa and Iroquois, made extensive use of cattails far beyond food alone. The leaves were woven into useful items, the fluffy seed heads served as insulation and wound dressing, and the pollen became an important nutritional resource. Flavor changes depending on which part is eaten. The shoots are fresh and watery, while the pollen has a mild sweetness and subtle starchiness. It is never an especially bold-tasting plant, but in marsh environments, it offers a remarkably reliable source of calories almost year-round. Biltong is another preservation method that has stood the test of time. Originating in southern Africa and closely associated with South African cuisine, it traces its roots back to techniques used by indigenous peoples long before European settlement. The name itself comes from Dutch words referring to strips of meat, accurately describing its appearance. Although people often compare biltong to jerky, the preparation methods are quite different. Traditional jerky is commonly smoked or dried with sweet marinades, whereas biltong begins with meat soaked in vinegar before being coated in salt, black pepper, and crushed coriander seeds. It is then left to air dry slowly without heat. The vinegar tenderizes and helps preserve the meat, while the salt removes moisture that bacteria need to survive. Dutch-descended settlers known as voortrekkers depended heavily on biltong while traveling inland during the 1800s. They prepared large quantities before setting out, hanging strips to dry and storing them for long journeys across southern Africa. Depending on thickness, the finished product can be soft and chewy or firm and dry with a darker exterior forming during curing. Its taste is deeply savory, balanced by aromatic coriander and a gentle tang from the vinegar. Another fascinating staple food is tsampa, a roasted barley flour that has sustained people across Tibet and the Himalayan region for well over 1,000 years. Instead of cooking the grain after grinding it, barley is roasted first and then milled into a fine powder, giving it a distinctive toasted flavor while extending its shelf life and making it ready to eat almost instantly. Roasting the barley before grinding does more than simply improve the flavor. It dramatically extends the flour's shelf life while giving it a warm, nutty taste that makes it enjoyable to eat even on its own. This simple preparation method turns tsampa into one of the most dependable staple foods in the Himalayan region, where harsh weather and limited resources made long-lasting food absolutely essential. Traditionally, tsampa is mixed directly into butter tea, a unique drink prepared with tea leaves, yak butter, and salt. As the roasted barley flour absorbs the liquid and fat, it thickens into a dense dough-like paste that can easily be rolled by hand and eaten without any further cooking. Since the barley has already been roasted beforehand, no additional preparation is necessary, making tsampa an incredibly practical meal for life in cold, high-altitude environments. For centuries, Tibetan nomads, monks, merchants, and travelers depended on tsampa as one of their primary food sources. It was lightweight, easy to carry, and could be prepared almost anywhere with nothing more than a little liquid. Whether mixed with butter tea, plain water, or another available drink, it provided reliable nutrition during long journeys and brutal Himalayan winters when fresh food was scarce. The flavor is simple but satisfying. On its own, tsampa has an earthy, toasted, and slightly nutty taste. Mixed with butter tea, it becomes rich, creamy, and surprisingly filling, while water alone creates a heavier but still nourishing meal. Although it doesn't resemble bread or porridge in the way most people imagine, it functions as a complete staple food that has sustained entire communities for generations. Another survival staple that earned its place in history is the ship's biscuit, a close relative of hardtack that dominated life at sea between the 15th and 19th centuries. Made from little more than flour, water, and occasionally salt, these biscuits were baked multiple times until almost every trace of moisture disappeared. That extreme dryness made them highly resistant to mold, even in the damp and humid conditions aboard wooden sailing ships. Navies treated biscuit production as a serious logistical operation. The British Royal Navy, for example, operated enormous bakeries capable of producing vast quantities every single day to supply fleets traveling across the globe. Sailors were often issued daily rations consisting of ship's biscuit alongside salted meat, dried peas, and alcoholic beverages such as beer or rum. Despite its importance, eating ship's biscuit was rarely enjoyable. After months at sea, the biscuits often became rock hard and were frequently invaded by insects or worms during storage. Sailors commonly soaked them in water, broth, or coffee to soften them before eating, or simply broke away the worst sections and carried on. Food quality on lengthy voyages steadily declined as supplies aged, making meals increasingly unpleasant. Yet without ship's biscuit, many of history's greatest voyages might never have happened. Its remarkable durability allowed ships to carry dependable calories across oceans for months without refrigeration or fresh provisions, making early global exploration, trade routes, and naval expeditions far more practical than they otherwise would have been. Acorn bread represents another ingenious survival food built around local resources. Rather than using traditional grains, it is made from flour produced by grinding oak acorns after carefully removing their natural bitterness. Fresh acorns contain tannins, compounds that make them unpleasant and potentially harmful in large quantities, so they must first be soaked or repeatedly leached in water until those tannins are washed away. Once processed, the resulting flour develops a mild, slightly sweet, and pleasantly nutty flavor. Many indigenous communities in California, including the Miwok, Pomo, and Ohlone peoples, relied heavily on acorns as a dependable source of food. Oak trees produced abundant harvests year after year, allowing families to gather, process, and store large quantities for future use. Archaeologists have even discovered specialized storage pits designed specifically to preserve acorn meal, highlighting just how central this resource was to everyday survival. Bread made from acorn flour looks and behaves very differently from ordinary wheat bread. Because acorn flour contains no gluten, the dough does not rise much during baking, resulting in a loaf that is dense, dark, and compact. The flavor is unique as well, offering earthy notes with a subtle sweetness and a gentle nuttiness that many people find surprisingly pleasant. Acorns were not just important in North America. Throughout history, communities in parts of Korea, Japan, and the Mediterranean also turned to oak trees as a dependable food source, especially during times of famine or grain shortages. Archaeological evidence suggests that people across Eurasia gathered, processed, and stored acorns for thousands of years, proving that one of the most common trees in the world also provided one of humanity's oldest backup food supplies. Another unusual but highly nutritious survival food comes in the form of roasted grubs. These are the larvae of beetles and other insects and have been eaten in many regions of the world for generations. Well-known examples include witchetty grubs from Australia and mopane worms from southern Africa, both of which remain traditional foods to this day. Witchetty grubs spend much of their lives underground feeding on tree roots and have been harvested by Aboriginal Australians for thousands of years. When eaten raw, they are surprisingly soft and creamy with a mild flavor that many describe as slightly nutty. Roasting transforms them completely, creating a crisp outer layer while leaving the inside rich, tender, and full of fat. Mopane worms, despite their name, are actually caterpillars rather than true worms. They are gathered in huge numbers during seasonal outbreaks across southern Africa before being cleaned, dried, and sometimes smoked for preservation. People enjoy them in many different ways, whether eaten dry as a snack, simmered in stews, or fried with spices. Once dried, they develop a chewy texture and a smoky, earthy taste that has made them an important traditional protein source for countless communities. Both foods are remarkably nutritious, containing large amounts of protein and healthy fats while requiring very few resources to obtain. For many cultures, they are not emergency survival foods, but valued ingredients that have been part of local diets for centuries. Pinole is another fascinating travel food with roots stretching back thousands of years in Mesoamerica. It is made by roasting corn kernels until they become lightly browned before grinding them into a fine powder. Roasting not only creates a pleasant toasted flavor, but also helps preserve the flour for longer periods, making it ideal for transportation. The Rarimuri people of northern Mexico are especially famous for using pinole during endurance running. Rather than carrying heavy meals, they simply mix the roasted corn flour with water to create a drink or thin porridge that provides steady, long-lasting energy instead of a quick burst followed by a crash. This simple preparation has fueled runners across enormous distances through rugged mountain terrain. Spanish missionaries and settlers also adopted pinole during the 1600s and 1700s as a practical ration for travel. Some recipes included additional ingredients such as amaranth seeds or mesquite to increase nutrition and improve flavor. On its own, pinole tastes lightly sweet with a roasted corn aroma and subtle nuttiness, but it can also be mixed with cacao, cinnamon, or sugar for a richer experience. Dry pinole has a dense, slightly grainy texture that becomes much smoother once mixed with liquid. More broadly, insects themselves have served as an everyday food source for billions of people around the world. The practice, known as entomophagy, remains common across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and is far more than a last resort survival strategy. In many places, insects are simply considered normal cuisine. In Mexico, grasshoppers known as chapulines are toasted and seasoned with lime, chili, and salt, creating a crunchy snack with smoky and tangy flavors. Across East Africa, winged termites are collected during seasonal swarms and eaten roasted or dried, while tropical regions often harvest palm weevil larvae, which are commonly fried or roasted until golden. Crickets have also become increasingly popular because of their mild, slightly nutty flavor and their ease of farming. From a nutritional standpoint, insects are packed with protein and fat, with many species containing protein levels comparable to or even exceeding traditional livestock when measured by dry weight. They also require significantly less land, water, and feed than cattle or pigs, making them an increasingly discussed option for sustainable food production in the future. Pine needle tea offers a completely different kind of survival resource. Made simply by steeping certain pine needles in hot water, it produces a pale green drink with a fresh, resin-like flavor and subtle citrus notes. For centuries, people have relied on it not only as a beverage, but also as a valuable source of nutrition and traditional medicine, especially in places where fresh fruit was unavailable. Many pine species contain impressive amounts of vitamin C, making the tea useful for preventing scurvy among sailors and populations enduring long winters. During the 1500s, the crew of French explorer Jacques Cartier famously learned from indigenous peoples living along the St. Lawrence River how to prepare tree-based teas to combat the disease after many sailors had fallen ill. Not every evergreen is safe, however. White pine and spruce are commonly considered suitable for tea, while species such as yew contain toxic compounds and should never be consumed. Young spring needles are generally preferred because they are softer, fresher, and often richer in nutrients. The finished tea has a clean forest aroma with a light body and a slightly resinous aftertaste. Although many people sweeten it with honey or berries, it remains an effective and refreshing survival drink even when served plain. Finally, salo is a traditional preserved food strongly associated with Ukraine and other parts of Eastern Europe. Rather than focusing on lean meat, salo is made from thick slabs of pork fat, usually taken from the back or sides of the pig, which are heavily salted and often seasoned with garlic, pepper, or herbs. Some versions receive a light smoking treatment, but many are simply cured and aged in cool storage. Unlike most preserved meats, salo is prized almost entirely for its fat content. Historically, that concentrated energy made it invaluable for farmers in rural communities facing long winters when fresh food was scarce. Heavy salting allowed it to be stored for extended periods without refrigeration, often wrapped in cloth or kept in cool cellars until needed. Well, that's all. Remember, no matter how far humanity advances, physics don't change.